Hey everybody, this is Jonathan Schrantz. The delayed C3 Sicilian is one of the trappiest openings in all of chess. Don't believe me? If black decides to bring out the knight to f6, you can just play bishop to e2, and if black does decide to grab on e4, boom, queen to a4 will pick up a knight right on the spot. That's a trap. If instead black plays knight to c6, we can continue with pawn to d4. Now if knight takes e4, d5 can be played. This will win a piece, because wherever the knight goes, boom, queen to a4 will win a piece again. That's a trap. This time if black plays knight to c6, again we will play d4. If c takes d4, c takes d4, knight takes e4, we can play the move pawn to d5, and if the black knight decides to move anywhere, boom, queen to a4. That's a trap. After knight to c6, we're going to play pawn to d4. After c takes d4, c takes d4, knight takes e4, we're going to continue one more time with d5. But this time if black plays queen to a5, we're going to play knight to c3. Now if knight takes c3, b takes c3, black needs to be careful yet again, because if the queen takes on c3, boom, bishop to d2, we'll defend our rook and attack two pieces simultaneously, winning for white. That's a trap! This time after queen to a5 check, we're again going to play knight to c3. After knight takes c3, b takes c3. If the knight decides to move away to e5, we are going to take on e5, and after d takes e5, we are going to get castled. If queen takes c3 now, we are going to get a winning attack. Bishop to b5 check, where, for example, bishop to d7, bishop takes, king takes, queen to a4 is going to lead to a winning attack. For example, king to d8, bishop to e3, and our attack will be relentless. That's a trap. If you are enjoying this video so far, please let me know by leaving a like. That is not a trap. Well, it's kind of a trap, but the counter stays the same. Now if black wants to play knight takes c3, b takes c3, knight to e5, again we are going to be taking on e5, and if black decides to take on e5 again with the pawn, we are going to get castled. Now black needs to be a little bit careful, because if you just play g6 thinking you can play bishop g7 and get castled, you're in for a rude awakening. We are going to start with rook to b1, and after bishop to g7, can you see the move that white is going to play? Pawn to d6 is a winning move for white. The problem for black is that you can't castle due to d7 winning a piece. Another issue is that if you don't castle and you just take on d6, we're going to be taking back with a queen, making it hard for black to castle, and this is going to be an overwhelming attack for white. That's a trap. Running it back to this position, after knight takes e5, black doesn't have to take on e5 right away. He can toss in queen takes c3 check. Now after bishop to d2, queen takes e5, we are going to get castled. And once again, black might run into a little bit of danger if he just thinks that he can play g6, develop the bishop, and get castled. Here, we get a monstrous attack after the very important move, bishop to b5 check. For example, after bishop to d7, bishop takes d7, king takes d7, we actually have a mate in 8 here, starting with queen to a4 check. For example, after king to d8, we are going to be playing bishop to a5. If b6, we simply take on b6, capture on a8, and begin our checkmating attack. That's a trap. After we get castled, if black does decide to take on d5, controlling the b5 square, which is very important, we can play rook to b1, and if g6, again, this is a careless move, because now bishop to b5 leads to a winning attack for white. After bishop to d7, bishop takes d7, king takes d7, white has a very powerful move here, queen to a4 check. After king to d8, we have yet another very impressive, very amazing move that can be played in this position. Rook takes b7, and after queen takes b7, bishop to a5 leads to a winning attack. If the king does decide to run over to c8, it's really easy, mate on e8. That is a trap. After black takes our d-pawn and we play rook to b1, the computer move is actually to play pawn to e5. But here again, bishop to b5, bishop to d7, bishop takes, king takes. White actually has a very strong move in queen to g4 check. Now if king to e8, we can play rook f to c1, hanging our bishop, and black better not take it, because if black does decide to grab the bishop, rook to c7 is going to be mate in 4 from this position. For example, after black blocks, queen to a4. After rook to d7, we take, and this is checkmate. That's a trap. Saving the best for last, now after queen takes d5, we can also play rook to c1. Now after g6, we can play rook to c7. If bishop to g7, for example, we actually get a winning attack after queen to a4, although it's not so simple to see. For example, after king goes to f8, we have an absolutely amazing move here, and I will give you time to find this one. The brilliant move is, boom! Queen takes a7. The rook is not going to be able to take our queen due to the back rank checkmate, and even if black does decide to move this b-pawn, we can simply play bishop to f3 and white will be winning loads of material here. Alternatively, after queen to a4 check, if the king had decided to go to d8, we can get a winning attack after the move bishop to a5. If, for example, b6, we can actually just leave the bishop hanging and play rook f to c1, which introduces threats like bishop to f3 and the even more amazing rook takes a7 into the position, and white is completely winning. That is a trap. If you like this video, please consider subscribing. It helps me out a lot. That's not a trap.